Uh, hey guys, just another discussion here. This one I'm talking with a male space. Welcome to the discussion.
Thank you.
And we're going to be talking a little bit about Red Pill, mainly about Red Pill 2.0. And here's my thoughts on this. I got involved in men's issues back in 1993 and became part of the sort of online scene of discussing Red Pill in 2007, 2008. And at the time, there were some PUAs, the pickup artists that were using Red Pill. There were MRAs using Red Pill. But one of the things that we did at A Voice for Men, and I think quite successfully, is we injected the notion of the red pill into the common dialectic, pointing at men finding value in themselves outside of how women appreciated them. In other words, just the exact opposite of PUAs who invest all their energy in becoming appealing and accepted by women. And what I've seen happen since then is almost like a cancer. And my guest is welcome to disagree with me, by the way. It seems like we've got Andrew Tates and we've got other people. I saw Greg Gutfeld saying red pill on one of his shows on Fox News a few times, using it as though the term were interchangeable with Republican. It's actually mind-blowing how much this red pill mentality has morphed and been co-opted and turned into different things, not nearly all of them positive. So I wanted to invite a male space who's relatively new to the online discussion, the public discussion of these things, but not new to the material. So you want to maybe just tell my audience a little bit about your background and how did you end up in a joint like this?
Okay, I will tell you, and I will try to be succinct, but it might be lengthy. And if I get too lengthy, just tell me to reel it in. That's fine.
You got it, boss.
Okay, yeah. So I grew up in a fatherless home in the latchkey kid era of the 1990s. And like many fatherless homes, there were, let's just say, some social problems there that went on with my brother and I. And if someone were to look at the pathologies that are common in fatherless households, I would say that my brother and I fit a decent amount of them in terms of, let's say, depression. With me, I'm not. I'm fine with stating this because other men are hurting these days also. Suicidal ideation in me, depression, very poor self-image, let's say a sort of listlessness, rolelessness. And my mother did the best she could, actually. She was a very hardworking woman. And unfortunately, my father simply was a very mentally ill and negligent person. It was both negligence and mental illness. So maybe not all his fault, but also partly his fault. So, and growing up around this sort of lower middle class area of Queens at the time, there were other social deviances there, such as, let's say, truancy, a lot of troublemaking, not amongst everybody, but enough to notice. And also within that, there was a great emphasis on sex back in those days and who had a girlfriend and who was screwing who. And like we're saying here, what value do I have if I do not have these girlfriends? So there was this huge emphasis on dating and fooling around. And for someone like me who had a, let's say, a more retiring disposition, it started to make me feel bad, actually. And I have no problem with saying that. And it further eroded my self-esteem to begin, which I had to begin with. And I did have actually a decent amount of friends, and some women actually liked me though. But I did not go forward with it because of just simply being, let's say, I wasn't imbued with the best life skills for life generally, besides women when I was younger. So I knew that something was,
Fatherless home will do that.
yes. So I just did not know how to compose myself generally. I mean, I did okay in school, but it really wasn't all that I could have done. I just did not, to put it short, lack of life skills. I'll put it like that. So as I was getting older and seeing the scene around me and seeing the culture being more and more devolved and debased, and here we are today, I also noticed that there was definitely something wrong with what's going on with men increasingly. And by, let's say, about, to make a long story short, I would say in the late 90s or early 2000s, I realized that there's something wrong going on here. There was something wrong with the sexual market. This is not normal with the sexual debauchery, the pretty much I would call it, like Baskerville and Roger Devlin say, the abolition of monogamous marriage. Now, we'll get into whether we should encourage marriage, and I'm just saying with the institution of marriage, when there's no sexual regulation, things become very unpredictable and chaotic. And as Baskerville and Devlin call it, sexual anarchy, where there's no rhyme or reason to anything. And actually, that makes it very difficult to find a good wife. It makes it very difficult to even find a girlfriend in some cases, because with this lack of sexual regulation, I noticed nearly every attractive or even ordinary woman a man talks to is already taken by someone else. So to get a girlfriend, you would have to steal a girlfriend from someone else. So because there's everything is malleable, meaning there's no demarcation with the let's say the real traditional way of marriage, not tradcon. That's the way of regulating
And
sex.
we need to stop there for a
Yes, okay,
moment
yes,
and
yes,
differentiate this,
yes,
and I'll pitch in with it too,
yes,
but go ahead and lay this out here, because you're right.
yes,
Not tradcon, when you're
yes,
talking about traditional marriage,
yes.
what are we talking about? Because it's not the Hollywood
Right. Now,
version.
now, from my view, when I started to educate myself and go in this direction and educate myself, such as by men such as yourself, Janice Femiengo, Dr. Roger Devlin, Dr. Stephen Baskerville, and Dr. Daniel Emnaeus, particularly the book, The Case for Father Custody by Dr. Daniel Emnaeus. And if anybody who's not read that in the male spaces yet, they need to read that book to get their head right about what marriage is, which is why Dr. Baskerville has been emphasizing the work of Dr. Emnaeus lately. The primary, well, excuse me, what I now know is that the primary purpose of marriage is to establish fatherhood. The primary purpose, not the tradcon or conservative or Republican family values having party. It is not about reproduction. It is not about raising children per se, because as Baskerville said in my conversation with him, and I'm going to quote these men also because they have taught me a lot,
Sure.
and they are far wiser than I am, more learned, older than me as well, and been at this for a long time, that it is not for reproduction because you could reproduce outside of a marriage. It is not for child raising because a single mother or a single dad can raise a kid, or just yes, very easily. People prove every day that you could do that without the marriage. It is to establish ownership of children, because men are the weakest link in the family and they are the sexually weaker sex than the woman. There's no guessing who the mother is of a child. The child comes from the woman's body. To properly establish this, either the government, and some people get uncomfortable by the government involved in marriage also, or society, yes,
I'm
right,
raising
right,
my
right,
hand.
right, or society, or the ethnic or religious community has to establish this man is the father. No one else is. Even if he is not the biological father, he is the one who has ownership, or yes, he has the authority over the child. That's primarily what it's for. And also what I noticed as well, as I started.
Let me stop you for a moment there and interject a question
Yes,
into this. You brought up the sort of, let's say, the custodial aspect of this
yes,
with fathers, and you said even if he's not the biological father. At the same time, that sort of thinking has saddled a lot of men with responsibilities for children that were born of affairs.
yes.
And is that right?
No, because there is something else to this also, that we were going through in these literature is a little the right of first refusal, because the man should have the right to say, this is not my biological child and I'm not raising him. But if he chooses to, then so be it, because he's in the helm already. And also, me personally, I don't want to talk too much about myself. I would think that good men who are already attached to this child of 2 years, me personally, I do have, and I'm going to say this to the audience, I have a son and a daughter. That if a child looked in my face and said that they loved me and acted as my son or daughter for 2 years, I personally could not bring myself to lose this child, even if it was an affair. I would say, it's my custody now. These children love me. I was duped and fooled. I will do this now. That's the way my life went. But if a man does not choose to do that, I do not think that anybody should force this man to raise children that are not his biologically. And yes, that's the way I see it. And if you don't mind me going forward, is that what I noticed also, though, growing up also, and even to this day, is that growing up in a very socioeconomically and ethnically diverse area of the country, Queens, I believe, is the most diverse area of the entire country. I did take observation that the more family oriented and either religiously or ethnically oriented communities that were very tight knit had easier times finding mates, got paired up quicker, and also had a lot of family support in raising children. Again, like we said, it was not just two lovebirds in the marriage. It was more of a community, like D'Agosto. I think that D'Agosto, I think that's his name. He wrote this. He had this diagram where it showed the relationship between the community and the family, and that is the antithesis of the romantic model that you and Peter Wright have been going over. So that's my view on what marriage is actually. Yes,
Okay,
yes,
that makes perfect sense to me. All
yes,
for it.
yes,
So one of the things you brought up a couple of times, Dr. Baskerville, and he has come to the conclusion that the only way we're going to right this ship apparently is with a marriage strike by
yes,
not participating in it.
yes.
What are your thoughts on that? On generally men refraining from marriage until family law is brought to heel?
Yes. Well, I'm going to be transparent and honest here. I am a married man with two children. So I stated that before, and I've been married for some time now, but this is not about me. And I learned of some of the many, I was already consuming material before I was married, but to get to the bottom, the root of the problem, the real problems that are going on now, not the incel. I mean, the incel thing, just to go off for a little direction on the side before I get back to what I'm saying, not the incel problem, which is the womanless man problem, I believe is a serious problem. We can get into that if you want, I did not get to the core of these social problems until I moved past some red pill content. I mean, as first, the original red pill more was like, let's say, I consumed some of yours, and then I was mostly focused on, let's say, the other people, the older ones, like Barbarossa, Stardust, Spetsnaz, and I was listening to bits and pieces there, but I didn't really get to the core of the marriage problem and the courts and all the things we're talking about now until later on. So this is not about me. I'm going to answer it as because I'm concerned for men as a whole. It's not about what I'm doing per se. So I do believe that the marriage strike is warranted, but I'm also agreeing that it is I don't think it should be an indefinite undue strike. It's a strike as a means to an end. For example, if our politicians and the people running society want a thriving population of families and communities and a birth rate that is sustainable, they can't expect people to do this without the means to do it. And part of not having the means is without the means to do it is a divorce regime, and we'll call it a regime and an industry that is stacked against them. This is unbelievable. This is ridiculous, and also not even taking. Maybe I'm asking too much of them, but a lot should be asked them. If they're going to run the country and make influence, be influencers like, let's say, Tucker Carlson, who's not a politician, but let's say rather a journalist or a talking head. I believe there's responsibility there also. If it's not just that, it is housing prices, it is other socialization issues that are going on now, meaning that it's very hard to meet a mate now, I believe, from what I'm hearing and what I'm observing. Anybody who wants to correct me on anything, because I'm an older guy now, I'm 46 years old, but any young man who wants to talk to me and tell me what's really going on, I'm all ears. But how could you expect people to get married, not feel resentful towards it with the divorce regime that is completely anti-father, anti-male, and have this unsustainable
Anti-child.
anti-child also, the kidnapping of children, which we're going to go into also. I mean, these horror stories that I've heard about are just, it's abominable. And to have also expect people to get married when they have a hard time finding mates. We have these Gen X talking heads online, not just the tractons, who say men haven't approached women. Men haven't approached women. If you have to approach women, something in the society is broken. You should be able to meet people, men and other men and women, by living your life the way that we did in the 90s. The 90s was already deteriorating, but no one had a problem meeting people. You went up the block to the park. There were girls and guys there. You went to a keg party. You went to
It was pre-internet.
yes, and to just not. I'm agreeing with you, but I don't think that it should be again an indefinite strike, because an indefinite strike is not going to. Well, what would that do with an indefinite strike? I mean, what would be the purpose of an indefinite strike then? What do you think?
Well, I never saw a marriage strike as something that should be a permanent. That's a suicidal move
Yes,
for a culture
yes,
to totally eradicate it with no hope of bringing it back. But we do have some formidable obstacles before we can get there.
yes,
One, the divorce industry, you labeled it right. It is an industry. It is a huge industry, and it's a corrupt industry. and it's totally oblivious to facts. It's totally oblivious to the interest of the child or the interest of families. Rather than restructure a family after a divorce, it basically just finishes off the family, drives the nails in the coffin, ruins the kids, uh,
Yes.
alienates the father, punishes him. And until that ends, it's really crazy to get married. We need to bring that industry to heel,
Yes.
but yet we are such a gynocentric culture. So much of what we mistake for traditionalism is actually this Hollywood model. And I see guys out there, especially Paleo-Christian and others, that are just barking from the rooftops about a tradition that only existed in 1950s Hollywood.
Yes.
And that's what they're trying to model things after. And they won't even talk about the divorce industry.
Yes.
And these are leading voices calling
Yes.
themselves red pills. So
Yes.
yeah, I feel you. I agree with every last thing you said.
Yes.
How we get there, anybody's guess.
Right.
I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Well, that's what I've thought to myself. I mean, I'll probably be long, long dead after this is rearranged, if it is going to be. And another one, another little crowd I noticed on X, because I'm very new to X. That's how you and I got to talking. Is that again? There's this kind of also. I'm not sure if they told themselves red pill, but there's this kind of like a Gen X talking head crowd that are ones that are pressuring the men to approach women, and some of them are even further insulting. They'll say, all these regular guys won't get married. They should be getting married. It's their duty to Western civilization in America. You know,
Yeah.
and they'll also say this. They'll say, no one, if you're an ordinary, no one wants your 80K salary. Don't worry. Half of what? You don't even have money. So first of all, they dismiss the man for his status, saying, hey, your status is garbage. Marry anyway after I insulted you. And
She's the prize.
yeah. Secondly, also they diminish the man for having a lower status, and then secondly, they don't realize this also. The man who has less means is in an even more precarious position, meaning that if someone is worth millions and gets quote cleared of half his shit, well, his life is going to go on just fine. If you have millions, it doesn't matter, and they'll just write checks to their kids, write check, another check, and life goes on fine. The man with less means can find himself in serious trouble. As we said before, even when I was talking to you before about this case that I recall it was actually described in the essay Rotating Polyandry and Its Enforcers by Roger Devlin. And also it was him noting a story taken into custody by Dr. Baskerville of a man that had child support payments that were so high that he became malnourished. Other men that are jailed because they cannot support this. So to tell a middle class or lower middle class man or a poor man to do this, he's in an even worse position. I mean, I'll just give one more example. Like let's say, I think in the early 2000s, I'm not going to get too private here. I have an uncle who does very well, 7-figure earner. He got divorced, and at the time, I think I calculated in some type of formula. I was curious that he was paying $80,000 in child support one time per year, right? But a man who's paying 80,000, that's not a normal guy. That's a man who's making over here.
Yeah.
So he's unaffected by it. When he got remarried, he bought a home for his new wife and their kids. That's a man who's unaffected. So when people talk about this, and they're talking to a man of meager means, and they say no one wants half of your stuff, you're in trouble. And secondly, if you don't want me saying this, because this should be said here, also this has to get the word out. I think also amongst the PUAs, the red pillars, us, everybody who keeps saying half your stuff, it's more than half your stuff. It is your home, your professional and recreational license, your children. There's a reason why the suicide rate is so high after a divorce. It's not just money. So they better get right when they say half your stuff. Elaborate a little more and be correct with just half your stuff. Yes.
I have pointed out many times, and often to a deaf audience, that the typical disparity in suicide rates between men and women is
Yes.
4-1. During a divorce or breakup, it's 11-1.
Yes.
Warren Farrell documented this way back in '93 in The Myth of Male Power.
Yes.
Guys, this kills guys regularly, and
Yes.
it makes it all the more frustrating that I see what we call tradcons out there literally trying to shame men. And I saw this, Tucker Carlson's a great example. There's an old clip where he got into a short debate with Helen Smith, and what he told her was, she said men are doing a cost risk analysis and deciding it's not worth it.
Yes,
And he said, no, this is what men are supposed to do. You're supposed to take a bad deal. You're
yes,
supposed to bend over and take it because that's what men do. We have people that actually think this way. It is mind blowing that this is so wildly popular with people.
yes. And also you could see that I'm a big reader is that when I say to some guys that I've met on X or other people, I keep on saying, I can't explain this to you in just a conversation. Educate yourself. There are plenty of information by wise men like yourself. I've mentioned you in my videos, even with Helen Smith and not uh, other videos. I'm not sure if I mentioned her, but to her, you know her, but other videos I mentioned your name, and also all the other guys I'm talking about: Dr. Stephen Baskerville, Dr. Daniel Lemneus, Roger Devlin. I mean, stop! Don't be intellectually lazy. These men are laying out the facts for you. There's information out there now, and trying to get a man to read a book these days of crucial information is extremely difficult now, and which is why I'm always screaming my head off about this or quoting these men all the time. And I might seem like a fanboy, but I'm trying to get the message across.
I think we need to put all the facts into memes.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
Because if you can't read
yes,
it and get it in 10 seconds,
yes.
it's
Right,
like next.
right. And one thing I want to go over here, I just want to insert this because it's very important, is that uh, now that we have the sexual revolution and sexual liberation where there are no rules to anything, there's no rules to anything, and you can't expect people to work out. There's a reason why people are against sexual liberation and always have been historically, because they knew that if you do not manage sex properly in a society, very bad things are going to start to happen. And the people who pay the biggest price for this are children. And also, it's going to affect society in terms of what we're saying, these mental problems, suicide, etc. Because there are no rules to anything. So what I have to get in here also is that the polyandrous nature of some women, which I believe actually right now is, as I told you before, in the early 90s was already evident to me. Um, it is sort of, and again, I'm not here to indict women. I don't like these channels that they spend all day 2 or 3 hours dissecting the female behavior and bashing women. I'm not here to do that. We're gonna have to work together in marriages, relationships, and society as a whole. I do not take. I'm not into that. So anyway, people don't understand this is that there is a natural tendency, and Baskerville and I were talking about this, a natural tendency for women to leave men after there's a child, after the first few years of child raising. And Nace went over this. Devlin, even George Bernard Shaw said that, I don't remember his quote exactly, that it is natural for a woman to feel this after the first 3 or 4 years of child raising to just leave. Hence that video we saw on X where the woman was talking in that clip, I think it was a TikTok clip, and she was saying, I'm wondering why I don't want to be with my husband. Why is that? I don't know. I don't want to be with him. I love him. He's a great guy. Why don't I want to be with him? I don't know. So people got to be aware of this. If you don't have authority of your own home and authority of your kids, and you're encountering more numerous women like that, you better be scared then if you have children on the line. Because if you have no authority and someone just says, I'm not feeling it anymore, well, if the court is skewed against you and more towards the women and the taking the children from you, how could I encourage men to get into the situation besides the financial aspect? This kind of frivolous, malleable view on marriage, where I could just get out of this, it doesn't matter. For what reason? No reason. And to see a video like that, and to not think that the woman would think of her in-laws, her children, all the bonds between two families, just for this fleeting feeling of excitement,
Right.
men should be aware of that. Yes.
Well, yeah, and we've certainly unleashed the beast on that, starting with the second wave feminism.
Yes.
We open the doors for women to pursue their happiness above
Yes.
all else, including their children. So what you're saying, and what at least what I'm hearing, I don't want to say what you're saying, what I hear and what you're saying is that the solution to this is patriarchy
I,
or some form of it.
It would be, yes, because if we're going to have patriarchal homes with authority of the children, in that way, yes. I don't mean in the popular term of what people think patriarchy is. People
No,
think,
no, people can think whatever they want. I
yes,
mean actual patriarchy with father authority in the
yes,
home
right,
and for the name and for the well-being of
yes,
the children,
yes,
his
exactly,
responsibility and his authority.
yes.
Question is, how do we get there
See that
from here?
that I do not know. And again, I want to elaborate on this also and get it out there because again, hard to recommend literature to people. So I'm not a unique thinker. I'm not a unique thinker. I've been observing this since I'm a young man and reading and seeing what I'm reading, measuring up. I'll read I came across this literature, say, wow, this is why I've been observing this the whole time. So I want to get across here is that it's like we said, it's not the ridiculous notion of patriarchy that we see being spoken about on TikTok and social media now. That's not what it is. Because the opposite of patriarchy, like Dr. Amneas said, he said exactly, and he kind of had a funny way of talking, was very abrasive, not politically correct. He said the other way is the way of the barnyard jungle in the rainforest. That's the way it is. So when people say that something is natural, they better think of what they mean by natural, because natural is matriarchy. The father ownership and the patriarchy is artificial. Naturally speaking, child raising is matriarchal from the start.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Bob, still, I'm going to press further. Here we are. Women have gone wild. So have men. If we're,
Yes.
if we're going to be honest,
Yes, they have. Yes.
and I'm with you on that. And by the way, I think we don't benefit from overindulgence in critiquing women.
No.
It's men we need to look at because we're the
Yes.
only ones that can do anything about
Yes.
us.
Yes.
I'm also with you. I'm in the religious context. I'm married, have been for 23 years. This is not about me and my life. I'm not worried about anybody taking half of my stuff. I'm not going through anything like this. My concern is for what's going on with men. But it appears to me that we are stuck in a terrible feedback loop until we're destroyed.
Okay.
And that the only way we're getting from where we are to where we really need to be is through total social destruction and deterioration first.
Okay. I actually see where you're going with this. I want to add on to that. I like the direction you're going here. Is that okay? This is where a lot of times when men, I believe in the spheres that I've been observing and partaking in, by listening, consuming rather than making videos, which is only a new thing I've been on excellently 2 months. Like I said, is that this has to go both ways. And I also see that a lot of the times when, let's say, a woman is grilled on one of these podcasts, like some guy will criticize a woman and then the woman will say, but men do the same thing. Now, I understand that men get a little annoyed at that because, you want to point a finger at the woman and you don't want to be blamed also. And, it's always like, what about men? But there is a point by saying, what about men? Meaning you can't expect good behavior when you're misbehaving yourself. And this sexual hedonism feeds the beast. All it does is feed the beast. For example, I have a problem with this also, is that a lot of these, we'll call them the 2.0 red pillars, they are criticizing female behavior. They're criticizing single mommies, but they are actually exhorting men to be a single mommy maker, to do the kind of activity that creates this kind of chaos. So until men can actually stop thinking with their with their private parts and start thinking here. See, a lot of the discourse I see online, it's always thinking from here. There's always a sexual insert. There's always a sexual joke, a sexual reference. She's nothing but recreational use. There's always this kind of vulgar, crude, and I'm going to say I'm sick of that kind of talk. I don't want to freaking hear it. Like, I don't want to hear it. And by the way, also, a little side tangent, I'll come back to this, is that I have to say this. Having a daughter and also witnessing the kind of sexual debauchery of young women in the early 90s, that rubs me the wrong way. People better think of what they're doing when they, stick their wherever they want to and have no control. Because the only way to steer
Well,
this.
but wait a minute, we got to be a little bit, I think, balanced here.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, unless they're committing rape, men don't stick it where it's not welcome.
That's true also. That is the correct way. That is true.
Then we have the 2.0 guys, Andrew Tate, that crowd, which I have come to honestly despise.
Yes.
Because their shtick is appealing to guys who are at the age in life, 21, 22 years old, where their hormones and their erections are leading them around
Yes.
into life. And guys like Tate latch on to that,
Yes.
create a false promise of sexual abundance, and make money.
Right. But you see, you are definitely right. Because as we know, we've been in this space, so we've done any observing. The woman, she does control the situation. She's a sexually stronger sex. And also, she's the gatekeeper of the sex. So it does go both ways, of course. But just because someone invites you to do something, or welcomes you to do something does not mean you have to partake, though. You can do this in a more mature manner. I'm not going to be ridiculous and say, hey, wait for marriage after we're saying here, you got to wait for marriage when we're discussing what the problems of marriage now. But, if some young man or even my son when he's older said, oh, this happened and that happened, and I did it. I'm not going to look at him as some type of evil, bad person, but there are limits to this. I can understand why a young man, of course, he's going to have sexual urges that are extremely strong at very young ages. I'm not going to say be ridiculous, say literally abstain, completely abstain. I'm not going to say that, but there has to be some type of regulation going on here. And go
Well,
ahead.
one of the things I think that has sort of fouled this up, and I go back to what happened with the advent of gender feminism in the late 60s, and I'm talking about before we ran fathers out of the home, they were still failing because one of the things that that generation, which I'm very familiar with, the guys like my father's age, they never taught their sons any sort of discretion with women.
Yes, yes,
They operated on a romantic model. It
yes,
was the young man's job to see a woman he was attracted to and then become what he needed to be to appeal to her, to treat her in a way in order to capture her love.
yes,
That was the model they operated of. But I mean, if you went into almost any discussion anywhere now and started talking about how to screen women for their character and for their possible dangers
yes,
to be the wrong woman to marry, man, you'll get pushback from every tradcon, every feminist, everybody
yes,
around the corner. And we don't teach young men anything like that.
yes. Yeah, I totally agree with you. There's nothing like that. And also, some of us did not have fathers, or we had, let's say, checked out fathers. Again, I'm going to go back to when I was a kid. I'm going to, because my personal experience is not unique to me. Many of them, actually, all of my friends, actually, I have very close friends that I've been friends with since 8 to 20 years old. I'm 46 now, and being that we're all fathers now, we recall. We look back at that era. I said, someone will say, "Hey, did your parents teach you about sex? Did your parents teach you about sex?" And they're not going to say, "My father had a romantic view of marriage." They'll say, "No one told me anything. No one told me anything, let alone a romantic model. Nothing." And then in the schools, when you get sexual education, I all I remember from sexual education was no one get pregnant, use protection. Well, thanks, thank you for
What I got in my time was the boys can leave the room now.
yes, exactly right. So, yeah,
Because we're going to do sex
yeah,
education. We're just going to talk to girls about
yes, exactly. So nothing with finding a quality mate, nothing with looking into who the mate is from, what the family background is, what the the social status or financial status, nothing. Just date. Just find someone to go on a date with. I don't. How does this?
And while that wasn't, you're right. I don't think that was ever explicitly taught,
Yeah,
the romantic model, but that's what was role modeled.
yeah, yes, and also what I was looking back on also because I've done a lot of introspection as a middle-aged man with children and just looking at the world a lot and what has happened to it and relating it back to my childhood and youth is that I noticed that also if I look back at it, a lot of the culture also exhorted that they were genuinely funny movies. I'm not going to say they weren't funny and I wouldn't watch them again, like movies like Revenge of the Nerds, Spring Break, Porky's, all those films like that. Like these were just films that like told you to be pretty much a clown and a sexual pig. So this kind of hedonistic, clownish kind of thing was, I think, exhorted actually, and just to be indiscriminate with what you do without saying any of the pitfalls and perils to this kind of behavior.
Is it unfair to say, and I'm not saying this, I'm playing the hypothetical here. Is it unfair to say, well, this hedonism is what's been left to young men? What else do they have?
I see that is the problem. Also, I see. I am very realistic. Again, I'm not ridiculous. I'm not going to look at a young man and say, you know, you shouldn't want women. Go MGTOW at 18 years old. Like, come on, like, no.
Not your best sales pitch.
Exactly right. So I'm going to be realistic. And also, if you're an 18-year-old man who wants a social life, well, women are fun to be around with. I have female friends. I have female coworkers. I'm married. I mean, yeah, we want women around. We love we like having women around, right? So I'm not going to look a young guy in the face and say, "Don't hang out. Don't hang out with anybody," right? But uh, are they left with this only? I mean, I suppose that there are some uh, women out there who are not just providing sex. I mean, but I'm in the dark though. I know some young men, but if anybody wants to tell me, but what's going on, truthfully, is that all they're left with? I mean, do you know? I don't know.
Well, I can tell you this, in my practice, I work, I would say 95% of the men that I work with that are single are on dating apps.
Yes.
And they report from 18 to 80. That's the age range of people that I work with, from 18 to 80. They all report the same thing. The women are dead ends. They're absolutely worthless in terms of time investment. They ghost guys,
Yeah.
they tease them, they lie about their appearance, they use it, but it's like one nothing burger after another every
Yeah.
time they invest in this. And I think that feeds into the idea, well, if I can get casual sex, I'll just take some of that and I won't worry about anything more important because decent women just aren't there. That's what I'm hearing.
Right. So to be realistic, again, it is very, very. I actually, I am tongue tied because on one hand, these sexual urges are extremely strong at a very young age. Even in some of us older men, it's very strong. So I mean, perhaps. I mean, either it be luck or perhaps using other avenues of meeting women. But like I said before, the avenues for meeting women now are sparse. People are not outside the way they were in past decades. I've heard that even in some churches, there's no avenue, even in some of the churches, to meet women that are suitable mates. I mean, even my wife and I, one time we were going to the traditional Latin mass at a church near here for a while, and even there, I was just, I mean, I'm not interested, I'm married, but even when I would look around, I would say, where are all the younger single people here? I just don't see them. I do not see how a young man could go to even this traditional Catholic church and find a mate there. There's no one here. So I even had heard complaints of some religious institutions where everyone there is in the older crowd. There are no young people. So what I'm a little tongue tied for this one. Yes.
Yeah, it is unfortunate because I think this is feeds into porn addiction, which I think is actually a very real thing. Men are feeling, so many men are feeling sexually and emotionally isolated from women. Like I said, the guys I talk to, these are, they can afford to hire a therapist. I mean, they're
Yes.
living decent lives, doing quite well, but their reports is that it's just everything's a dead end.
Right.
That no matter what they do, they're not gonna find
Yeah.
what they're
Right.
looking for.
Right. So see, I'm not trying to prove myself right, but I believe I'm right because what you and I were discussing before is that there's this enormous pressure amongst the influencers and the politicians, et cetera, for men to get paired up and marry. But like you and I are saying here, well, marry who? Who are they going to marry?
Nala.
Yes, so yeah, yes, exactly. Okay, that's another thing
Mary
also.
Nala, I think she's available for all men.
Exactly, yes. That's the yeah, that's another story also we can get into with tradcons is that uh I guess I'm not gonna go in circle again. I think that people should just be very careful, and it's very unfortunate actually. I think it's terrible actually because I am very realistic, and I told you some of my background before we started speaking on this video here is that there is an infamous man that I quoted to Helen Smith in my conversation with her, and I'm not going to mention the man because we're on YouTube, and some people I just choose not to quote directly because of their role reputation. Is that he once said, and it hit home with me. He said that nothing makes a man angrier than lack of a woman. And I would say that in my younger years, yes, actual anger, the lack of a woman could cause extreme resentment and anger. Not actually anger towards women, but anger at the situation. I've never been angry at women ever. But I, as a young person who I would say, let's say,
Hold on, you've never been angry at a woman?
oh no, 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 no. Not I've been angry at a particular woman I married per se. I got married.
Okay.
I've been
So you can
married.
say, wow, how did you do
Yeah, yeah.
that?
I am not angry at women as a class. I've been angry at a woman. I was okay. Let me put it this way: when I had those feelings of anger as a young man, because I had a lot of anger as a young man. I mean, like up to here, not just because of a certain lack of a woman when I was younger. I can tell my story a little bit here if you want to get into it.
Sure.
Is that um okay, let me rephrase it. In my anger at the time, I wasn't angry at women. I mean, I was angry at my situation, not angry at women. And I don't think that the anger that men feel when they're womanless, I don't think the anger is at the woman. I think the anger is just simply the situation, or even anger at themselves.
Yeah,
Because
I the most typical response for men when they're without women is what's wrong with me?
yes,
Men automatically go inward.
yes,
Or
yes, yeah,
where's the problem?
right,
I don't look good enough. I
yes,
don't make enough money. I got bad skin, whatever it is. I've got 20 pounds extra weight. That's what's doing it. But they'll generally find something wrong with themselves. And I
yes,
agree, it does
yes,
breed anger, and it's mostly self-inflicted. I think we see a lot of men drink and drug over this anger,
yes,
over
yeah,
these feelings of isolation. And man, there, I almost hate to say it because I don't believe this literally, but when I look at men who turn to AI girlfriends and porn, I understand.
yes,
It,
yeah,
it's like, look, it's not the healthy path that I would prescribe for anybody, but how does it compare to 15, 20 times in a row being disappointed on a dating app?
yes,
Or finding out that the woman ghosts you after you invest in 5 or 6 dates or whatever. I don't know what to tell young men.
yes,
And I say this as a counselor.
yes,
It's like, I'd love to be able to say, here's what you do. You go
yeah.
to a church and you meet some fine, but guess what? You go to church and Nala's sitting there, if
That's
anybody.
another thing. Yes, 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 yeah. Yeah, so that's really what I meant by the anger. I meant not literally not angry at a woman. I meant in that kind of context, not
Yeah.
in that context. Yes. So yes, that I had anger as a young man, but also from other factors, also from growing up in a fatherless home, and also the dynamics of a fatherless home. Yeah, there all kinds of bad things happen in fatherless homes amongst in children. And yes,
And then you take this, and I think we got worse times ahead, is that you have men leaving the workforce, young men leaving the workforce in droves, angry
yes,
young men, and they're seeing women flourish, or at least have the appearance of flourishing.
right, yes,
The well, a lot of these women are like trapped in cubicles with bags under their eyes while their child takes their first steps with a stranger.
yes,
But the perception is women are doing well. They're the ones getting the degrees. They're the ones getting the jobs, making the money. And guys are like, it's either manual labor or a welfare check or something like that. And they're dropping out. They're angry. I don't see how this ends well.
right. And this also hits home with me, and also why I'm in this space, because I have empathy towards with men generally, but particularly young men. Because as I told you before, I'm not saying this for sympathy. I'm not saying for sympathy or to a virtue signal. I had suicidal ideation as a young person, so very young actually. Probably this first suicidal thought I had, probably I was 14 years old. So I'm talking about a very serious matter here. So if I do see other men suffering, being that I am a very sensitive person myself, I don't mean sensitive to a fault. I mean just I would say sensitive in a good way. I I don't like it. I feel sad for them. Yes. Uh, so and it's not that's not virtual signaling. I actually feel that, and I'm concerned about.
No.
Yeah, yeah,
And you took some of this frustration, as I understand it, I don't know you that well, but as I understand it, you took some of this anger, some of this frustration to the gym.
yes, yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about that
Well,
part of your journey?
yes. First of all, I was a very competent swimmer from a young age. My dad actually, before he became very mentally ill, he was involved like in drips and drabs. And when I swam, swimming came very naturally to me. I didn't really have the height. I didn't have the height to be an elite swimmer one day, but I continued with swimming lessons even into let's say my sophomore year of high school. My mom still paid for the lessons. I took swimming lessons at this place called Cathedral College in Douglaston, Queens, and I always loved physical activity. But at my school, my high school, there was no swim team. And I'm not saying I would be a good football player. I don't think I had what it takes to be a football player, but there was no football team either. It's just not a lot of avenues there. So I just love the feeling of being physically active anyway. So I just decided to go to the gym down the block from my house, and I had an uncle who was into lifting, and my uncle's friend was a bodybuilder, and he knew some pro bodybuilders, and I just love the feeling of working out. So I would always work out because I just genuinely love it. And I think also one of the reasons why well, not think, I know one of the reasons why I turned to lifting also because let's just face it, I wanted to be more physically attractive, right? So um a lot of people, because Queens was a very socioeconomically diverse, and also racially and ethnically diverse high school. There was a good amount of kids there who came from very rich families who were driving cars that were more expensive than the teachers' cars. And a lot of, also another element of Queens, you get also a lot of element of, I'm going to say it here, mean people too, very mean, aggressive uh, people there. And these people kind of stand out more than your average retiring soft-spoken kid. So I feel to myself, said to myself, well, if I don't have a vicious side to me, I'm not literally a criminal or a truant, I'm also not rich, well, maybe I could make myself more attractive in some other way. But I generally love the gym anyway. So I turned to it for both reasons. Um, yeah, that's why. And then I just loved lifting, and I was lifting for years. And then at 37 years old, even after I was married, I said, well, let me just get rid of this bucket list item. And I entered a bodybuilding show and I won it. And I earned a natural pro card, but I never competed again. But then again, it took me years to achieve a certain physique, but I still love lifting though. But I go to the gym to keep in shape as an older guy now in the morning before work. And yeah, that's the answer to the question.
What do you think of the guys? I mean, you'll encounter guys online sometimes that are sort of the just lift bro
Yeah.
crowd. What's your thoughts on that?
Okay. Okay. Maybe I'm sounding cynical, and I'm not. Again, I'm not a pickup artist. I'm not an advice giver. I will never say, "Hey, this is how you get women." I will have a five. Okay, my view is this. My view is if you have to talk more than 5 minutes about what women like, even less, you're missing something. Just say what they like in 5 minutes, a couple of elements that they like, and that's it. I do not think that I think that lifting can make a man more attractive. There's no doubt that some women like an attractive body. Let's get real here. There are women who like good
Of
looking men.
course.
There are women who, even me, I'm an older guy now. I'm not bragging here. I don't have the best physique in the world. I know when a woman is checking out my body, it's obvious, right? So I think that this can make you more attractive, but I think that it's a little overblown. But I also could be biased because to me, and maybe again, I keep going back to my upbringing because that has the biggest impression on me. To me, it's not advice. I'm saying what I see. Status is the most important. The whole lookism thing to me is nonsense. Women overlook good looking men all the freaking time for men who are criminal or high status all the time. And if you keep on
Yep.
going through the examples, you'll go through example after example after example. Even me, I don't look at people up and down. Like I think that a lot of these 2.0 red pillars, they're always like observing, like they're like these nosy busybodies. This celebrity's going out with that one. Look at that guy. Oh, the guy's getting cheated on. He has a pot belly. She's sleeping with the gardener. They just know everybody's personal stories, right? So, I'm saying, like, oh, hey, she's sleeping with the pool boy. Like, how do they know these things about people, right? So anyway, so I see ordinary guys out outside all the time with pretty women all the time. And look, I was out, let's say, last week for this fancy steak dinner that I went to with my wife for our anniversary. I'm looking around. I'm curious what young people are like, right? And I'm not here to say I'm an ordinary guy. I'm not Brad Pitt, but let me tell you, I'm going to tell you, it's like some of the guys that were with good-looking women when I was out there, they look like they just got up from a nap off of a park bench. Like, what I'm saying? Like not that they're bad looking, but the attention to their appearance and clothing and physique, there was
Maybe
not.
they were so rich they didn't have
I
to
know,
care.
I know. So I guess this is my long-winded way of saying, yes, go to the gym, be healthy. Even if I did not have a woman or was not interested in women at the time, let's say I went MGTOW, I'd still go to a gym. So, but the just lift thing, it's not bad, but it's, in a nutshell, it's overblown. I think. I don't think you have to be this special. Yeah, yeah.
It's the wrong priorities. And
Yes,
again, these things, and I got to own this on myself, is that it's easy for me at 68 to talk dispassionately about seeking approval from women.
yeah, right,
Because what do I care? I wouldn't have had this discussion at 22.
right,
I would have
exactly,
run from this discussion
right.
at 22.
Yeah,
So I think it's important to own that, but I do think this is the problem I have always had with 2.0 Red Pill, is that it takes the focus off of self-valuing
yes, yeah,
and is all focused on seeking
yes,
and getting
yeah,
approval from women, which is the exact opposite that
yes,
people need for a good self-worth and self-image.
right. Because my view is this: what if there's a time when that woman's not there? What are you going to do then? What are you going to do when there's a woman not there? And also, you
And
can
the chances are good of that.
yes, the chances are good at that. Just because you have a woman today doesn't mean you're going to have a woman tomorrow. And also, even amongst men that I've noticed, because we have this gynocentrism gone wild in most of us, and even I've had it for in me. I still probably have elements of it in me. I mean, I don't think there's any escaping it totally. But even men that I've known, they when a girlfriend dumped them, I mean, their whole life was they were already in a dating app the day the woman broke up with him. I'm like, dude, if this woman was really that valuable to you, how would you get over her so fast by going on a dating app? Did you just want a woman? Was this woman important to you? If she was important to you, how would you be on a dating app the same day she left you? And then there's also this notion that in order to get over this woman, you got to get another woman and you got to spin plates because if woman doesn't like you, other women like you. So it's really it's an
Which is a
enormous
bunch of mental gymnastics
yes.
to say, don't grieve.
Yes, yes, yeah, don't grieve. And also, there has to be a woman there all the time. Why does there have to be a woman there all the time? This is not normal. And I've gone on these rants before, and excuse me if I get a little too passionate. Yeah, you can reel me in if you need to. But some of these podcasts, I said to you, and I was talking to you, I think through the posts I've written on X, like saying that we're gonna have 2 to 3 hours of conversations with women, saying to women, asking women, do you like glasses? Do you like men who are bald? Do you like men with beards? Do you not like men with beards? This is not normal. This analysis of women and cracking the female behavior code and cracking the female attraction code, it is enormously independent. And secondly, also, I'm obviously not a woman. I could see why a woman would not respect that. If I were, let's say, a smart woman, I say, what the hell's wrong with this man? What is this a mature, developed man? What is it going to be like to be in a relationship with this man who is this goddamn needy? Why do you need me to be around all the time? Yeah.
Amen.
Yes.
Yep, I've tried to impart that very
Yeah.
set of ideas for years. We're going to wind down here in a minute, but I want to ask you a couple of things before we're done.
Yeah.
For this talk, I'd like to do more.
Oh yeah. Sure.
Um, if you're, what would you tell if you're counseling young men on how to approach life? And keep in mind that we're living in a fatherless culture and we have Red Pill 2.0, original Red Pill, tiny little audience. Uh,
Yes. Yeah.
but, but what would you tell young men that you've learned from life that you think might help them if they listened?
Okay. I'm gonna give a thoughtful answer. I think it's a very good question. It might be a little lengthy, but I want to get all it out there.
Take your time.
Okay. I think that again, it's very difficult to tell men to at those young ages. It is very difficult. I admit this to not get try to seek some validation from a woman. I think it might be almost impossible to feel totally validated as a young man in a social setting, not to feel some type of emptiness without a woman near you. I mean, the touch of a woman, the company of a woman, and sex are very powerful wants and desires, right? And you want to fit in. If you see other men with women, you want to have a woman. You want to go to a wedding with a partner. You want to go to a holiday event with and say, "This is my woman," or a woman who wants to say the same thing, "This is my man," right? So I can't get past it, but there has to be at this moment in time, 2025. I'd say, look, however this unraveled, I'm going to tell you the history of this. I would explain the sexual revolution. I would say maybe some of your social standing, it might take some quote self-improvement, but I'm also going to say, no, this was not all you're doing. No way, this is all on you. This is a broken and atomized society that unfortunately you are living in today. So you as a man are worth something from within. You were born into a culture that does not value men, that is anti-male, and this is what you were left with, unfortunately. And you're going to have to somehow get the boldness or courage or self validation from yourself and thinking well of yourself. And also, you could get that from turning to other men. There are plenty of other men, such as yourself. I would mention Paul Elam. Actually, watch Paul Elam's videos. I would say turn to This Is Shah, turn to Dr. Baskerville, and say, hey, these are men who understand your plight. These are men who are going to explain to you what you're facing, and these are men who actually believe that you are worth something as a human being. That you are, even if you are, let's say, wanting for a woman, you are still worth something. Even if you're born into a situation where you are having a hard time, excuse my language, I'm kind of losing my breath, getting a little passionate.
Right.
Okay, that you are worth something. And yeah, and I would also say that there are other factors against you, such as discrimination in colleges and universities. We're living in very bad times here, but you should still seek to work. And I don't mean get on the treadmill, like the TradCon treadmill, work 3 jobs and work yourself to the bone and wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, like Steve Goggins and John 5 Miles. If that's what you want to do, go do it. But do not feel that you have to torture yourself or work yourself physically into the bone simply because you want to try to impress people or because the people are pressuring you to. And also, even though we don't have, let's say, officially designated male spaces, I mean, after all, my name is male space here.
Yeah, we do now.
Exactly, yes. Like, that's what I'm going to say is that you can turn to men now because there are men who are waking up that you can turn to as a young man, and you can get company from us, advice, or just people to talk to, understand your plight, who are going to help you along the way. And also, no one's stopping men from getting together. No one is stop. Also, this is where I have to maybe be a little critical here. I don't like criticizing men, but we're deserving of some criticism or a lot of criticism for letting this happen to us to a degree. As a whole, I mean, not younger men, but probably older men took their foot off the pedal, uh, you know, lost the track. Is that no one is stopping men from getting together. No one is stopping men from forming, a key club gym. No one is stopping men from getting together to have some beers on a Friday night, go out to dinner on a regular basis.
XY crew, baby.
Yeah, XY. Yeah, you have the XY crew, right? So, one more thing before we catch up is because do you think that and I'm going to tell some little more advice that I have, maybe not the best advice, but that's what I have to say is that do you think that some young people are or men in general, even older ones, are lazy socially because they could say I'm lonely, but they could play games with people online, are and I'm ignorant to this, are they not saying to the guy over the video screen, hey, what's your number? Do you live near me? If you live near me, we could get together. And I witnessed some of this laziness though, because I actually have a close friend that I met on a bodybuilding forum, and he wound up living in my neighborhood, and he wound up becoming one of my closest friends actually, because we were not lazy. He said, "Hey, you live in the neighborhood? Take a walk over to my house."
I think it is laziness. There's an element of that. There's also, I mean, we have to look at what happened for young men during COVID. These developmental years where even kids were isolated from each other. That plays a role in this. But I think really the thing that has hurt us the most with men connecting to each other is that this society shames men. We like call it a boys' club in a condescending way.
Oh yes, yes,
That men get together, and women as a group seek through litigation, through legislation, in any way they can to break apart any organizations
yes,
of men. And I mean, part of it is, I agree with you, laziness, but we also have a culture that pushes so hard, and they'll even mock men with implied
yes, yes,
homosexuality,
yeah,
that kind of shaming.
yeah,
Oh, what do you want to hang out with the guys
yes,
for?
yeah.
This is it's a complicated
Very
thing.
complicated.
But it's really unfortunate. But I think it is fueled a lot by men refusing to say, screw this.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, that's what I think it is. And also it's kind of like conundrum. It's like I've always been asking people in my conversations. It's like feminists hate men, supposedly, or maybe they do, but they're always chasing us around. I mean that they want us to be going that way, but then when you go that way, they say, no, you can't go your own way. So
Yes, and then when you say, okay, fine, I get it, I'm not wanted, I'm not liked, I'll check
yeah,
out and go hang out with my male friends. They're like, wait a minute,
yeah,
what are you, a fag?
or they'll say, what are you, an incel? Are you an incel? You were
Yes,
you
you're
by
an
us?
incel.
Yeah, yes, so all that, yeah,
It's something.
yeah,
So it's like, unless you're sitting like a puppy on the back porch begging to be let in,
yes.
you're doing it wrong. And then, of course, you'll never get let in that way.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So, but also you should. I think that also I'm going to put it here, and then we could part ways soon. Is that I think that this is a very good book for young men. I have it right here. Stephen Baskerville's A Gentleman's Guide.
Yeah, I've got it too.
Yeah, so I think that really this is really a very good guide on how to comport yourself and handle yourself. I mean, after a while, it does say how to survive as a man in the age of misandry and do so with grace. So I do believe that this should be a
And I to be fully honest, and I discussed this with Stephen. I interviewed him about the book. There's a couple of bones I have to pick in that
I
book.
think yeah.
But overall, I think it's a great read, and could be very helpful. Another thing that I think it's important, uh, there's an expression out of the practice of psychology called going with the resistance. I think one of the things you can impart to young men is to tell them that when it comes to women, if and because all young men, unless they're gay, they're going to be driven to seek young women. It's just, you're not going to get away from that.
Yes.
To tell them the difference that makes the difference is indifference.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, and for to teach them to practice indifference with women.
Yes.
Eventually, if their mind goes there, their butt will follow, and
Yes.
they can develop an attitude of genuine indifference. But in the
Yes.
meantime, you can help them be more appealing to women uh,
Yes.
directly with a message that will help them, which is indifference.
Yes. Yes. Because I noticed that even me, and again, I'm not saying this to brag and all that. I'm not like some again, I'm not a 2.0 red pill. Like I got all these women. I'm not. First of all, I'm just a regular guy anyway. But I noticed that when I started comporting myself in a different way in my early 20s, about 20 years old, that things started changing because I said to myself, "Well, this is who I am. This is what I like. And if the rest of the world or whoever doesn't like me, that's it. Don't hang out with me, man or woman. F off. This is who I am. You know what I'm saying?" And then
And what age were you when that hit you?
I took that attitude at 20, and then I had a little bit of a rough patch in my life in my early
Wow,
20s. Yeah, yeah. I actually
you're a
started,
quick study.
yeah, yeah. But then I went through a rougher period in my early 20s again, which I don't want to get into because we have to wrap up here. But then I turned it back on more than ever in my mid 20s, and then uh, I was using the old dating websites a lot actually, and also just going out more. And as soon as I started to really come into that mindset, then I started to meet more women. Yes. I don't mean to be like a pickup artist. I mean, it was easier to meet women and find women to go on dates with and finally, eventually find a wife. Yes. But then again, more men started liking me. More men wanted to start to hang out with me, actually. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Um, where can my audience reach you? And
Um,
I'll be putting links down in the
oh, yeah.
description,
Yeah.
but if you would tell us your Twitter and YouTube and
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Twitter is a male space. It's at a male space. And then also on YouTube, it's at a male space. Or you could just Google a male space on either one and you will see me. Yes.
Okay, there, simple enough. I'll provide links below. A mail space. It's been great talking to you. I'd like to follow up in a few weeks and do this again,
Yeah, me too. I like it.
and continue this discussion, folks. Thanks for watching. Good to see you all. Take care.